Posting more doesn't necessarily mean more visibility. It's about the value of your posts. There's a lot of gurus saying you have to post daily, Monday to Sunday. That's not necessarily the case. You can post 3 times a week and have more impressions than if you were actually posting daily. We're seeing that just posting for posting's sake is diluting your message, diluting your value. So post methodically, strategically, and just always with the perspective of saying, how can I help? How can I be of value? And you're going to see that engagement decrease as well.
This week on the Whole Whale podcast, we have Mario Hernandez, co-founder of Impact Circle. And it's really actually quite appropriate that Mario and I have gotten to know each other actually through LinkedIn friends, as a result of our sort of supporting our various pet causes, mine having been for a while going after Microsoft's cutting of programs from their suite of Microsoft 365. And Mario, as I found, is very busy on LinkedIn and had incredible tips and insights on how nonprofits could be leveraging it. But before we get into it, Mario, how's it going? Can you tell us a little bit about what Impact Circle is?
Absolutely, George. Well, thanks again for having me. Excited to be on here. Impact Circle is definitely focused on helping nonprofits leverage the power of LinkedIn to find and secure corporate partnerships, which is absolutely crucial or critical given the year that it's been for the industry. We find that LinkedIn is just a golden opportunity for the sector itself.
Yeah, I took a nap for the past, 11 months. What happened this year that's making it so difficult from where you sit?
Well, I don't like to get into too many of the details regarding politics, but naturally the federal funding cuts, grants are a lot more difficult to come by. And because of that, it reminds me very much of the years of the pandemic. Nonprofits need to find now different sources of revenue. They need to be able to diversify. I very much come from a startup background, so I believe in innovation. I believe that we need to be able to innovate our revenue streams themselves. And so because of that, we need to be able to tap into the CSR space, into corporate giving for nonprofits, make sure that we go about it in a different avenue, but naturally double down on those corporate partnerships. So if any moment happens like the year that it's been, we have that financial stability for years to come, because any other external circumstance can always occur. We need to be prepared for it.
I feel like LinkedIn and its value is in the eye of a beholder. And put another way, I'll show you this pencil. I'm holding up a pencil, and most people will see, I get it. I'm going to write some stuff on a page and we're done. I feel like you look at this pencil and see novels of brilliance written and all of the magic that can happen. And so maybe you can sort of give us that opening of the mind of what's, when you look at LinkedIn, possible for nonprofits that we're just missing, that we're yeah, no, that's a pencil. It's got an eraser. We're good here.
I think that's a great way of framing it. So one of the reasons is out of a personal experience, realizing the power of LinkedIn, what it's done for myself, the opportunities have come by, and naturally for the organizations that we've been able to support. It's traditionally had that perspective of just a resume site where people are looking for employment or the employers are there. And so they're treating their profiles like a CV and so forth. But there is an evolution of that entire platform, and it's continuously growing in the opportunities that it provides. There's not as much competition as we've seen on Instagram, any type of meta product and so forth. And naturally, it's a very much professional network. It's a professional platform, which allows you to have these professional conversations, relationship building that are structured in a very polite format, and allows you to cut through the noise of what's social media to something that I don't consider as a social media platform. It's a live networking event that's happening daily, and the opportunities are there if you show up the right way.
Yeah, I feel like there's all manner of sin hidden in the details. There's somebody listening who's yeah, no, I posted this thing. My nonprofit has the event next week. I got 100 people to look at it in one comment. This thing is broken. What's, what are we missing?
I would say, like many things right now, the algorithm does change frequently. And I like the latest change. It's very much value driven. So now it's not about the number of followers. It's not about the number of connections. LinkedIn isn't about going viral. So posting really is for thought leadership, credibility, reputational building, where you can demonstrate with full transparency, whether it is for your nonprofit, the impact that you're providing, the events that you've had, But we have to stop looking at the measure of success, making it so that it's all about going viral, that you got a million impressions, 1,000 likes, and so forth. If it doesn't move the needle forward regarding building a relationship that's going to be a long-time supporter for your mission, then ultimately that post fell flat. I'd rather a post that had 10 reactions but garnered 2 connection calls to your ideal supporters than a post that went viral with absolutely nobody regarded for your space or supporting your mission. So we have to be very strategic or attentive or intentional, I'd say, about the way that we write content. And the magic is happening behind the curtains, where you're actually reaching out in the DMs, you're building relationships. The way that you and I have done so, and that we're on this call, is because of the power of LinkedIn. But that all happens because of relationship building.
There's a nonprofit listening to this right now that is saying, well, we post regularly on our page, our company page, right? We schedule them out. We got the images, happy pictures of people doing good things in the world. Did we do the LinkedIn? Did we do it? Did we win it? What would you say to that particular nonprofit?
I'd say it's absolutely necessary to always have the organizational page, have it active naturally, because it provides that credibility and reputation for the organization. However, LinkedIn is very different compared to those other social media platforms where it's a logo driven approach. On Instagram, on Facebook, we do find that a lot. LinkedIn, ultimately, it's all about the personal branding. So the organization has to have a face that's representing it, whether it's a development officer, it's the marketing and the comms team. But all of the engagement really happens from the personal branding. So you need to be able to do both in parallel. But if you want to have those conversations, ultimately a decision maker, whether it is CSR director, chief executive officer, any C-suite executive, they don't want to be receiving a message from the organization and talking to somebody that they don't know their name, last name, where they're from, where they're based, and so forth. They actually want to receive a message from George, from Mario. And then ultimately they know how to connect and discuss.
Would you recommend, or would you say that actually the LinkedIn profile of an executive officer, specifically we can stick with the ED or CEO, that profile is actually not necessarily owned and operated solely by that person? You are actually, as fair or unfair as you want to map it, probably should hand that over to a comms team and should have a regular cadence of that and consider that an owned channel of the organization. Agree, disagree, challenge.
I'd agree, and depending on the size of the organization. Naturally speaking, it's one of those where you want to make sure that that authenticity is there. We very well recognize how busy that CEO, that executive director might just be. But ultimately, what you don't want is a false narrative of the post creation anyway, where it isn't that person's voice, it isn't that person's values and principles and so forth. So you have to be very aware of that, because ultimately you're going to end up jumping on a call. And if you establish that relationship through LinkedIn, when you do jump on that call, that person already has a specific perception of that individual. So that's where there's a fine line. Smaller organizations naturally have a little bit more flexibility in being managed by that person themselves. So the larger organizations there, I'd say that they have to be prudent about their marketing and comms teams as to how they manage that whole facet.
Put another way, if you simply duplicate the fire hose of what's going out on that company page or what's going out in the newsletter on the CEO's page, you're doing it wrong. You're lacking what you're talking about here, which is that personality, that flavor, that perspective. I was sitting in a meeting today where this was discussed. This is what surprised me, as opposed to this is the result of the meeting that you didn't get any background or info around, right? It's the making of the cake.
Absolutely. There's a lot of authenticity within LinkedIn, or that's what we've seen anyway, is that the profiles that have that authentic voice, the transparency as well, you can definitely cut out the noise, especially even now with the consumption of AI anyway. So when you actually see that, people resonate a lot more powerfully. They become involved with the organization. They identify. They resonate, and that's what we want to see. Is because the platform lives on that and breeds on that. Is that authenticity, that credibility that you can obtain from seeing someone actually post their own personal views, from discussing things that are happening in the boardroom within the limitations of what they can actually be demonstrating. But that's where we see a lot of the magic happen on this platform.
Yeah, and we can take a turn toward tactics, which I can't wait to bounce some off of you. At a high level still, I want to talk about one more reason that I think, and you can correct me, that it makes sense to be using the personal profiles of those leaders on your team is because they are inherently less throttled in the organic reach than the company page. The company pages have this little thing called boost. Boost this post. And guess what? LinkedIn, owned by Microsoft, there's a thing they like. It's called money. And they get more of it when you press that button. And as that creeps in, that pay to play is disproportionately throttling the company posts. So if you are getting limited reach and things on there, you're like, what's going on? We used to get so many. Like, surprise, that's happening. What's also concerning to me right now, and I don't know if you've noticed it, is that little boost button has found its way onto my profile and above all of my posts that used to be like, oh, you want a message to your network that you've carefully grown over the past decade. Cool. But what if we could take money from you?
So it's an unfortunate circumstance where we do see that pay to play, as you very well mentioned. Resisting that temptation pays high dividends, let's say, down the long road. So I'm always very much suggesting, even to the nonprofits, a long-term relationship will always yield a better investment than a short-term donation. It applies the same way through these personal profiles, where I much rather or prefer that you have the vitality of your network is valuable more than the virality of your post reaching a network that isn't as valuable as it were if it were nurtured, let's say.
Yeah. So you would, if I were to say, hey, everyone listening, I think on a minimum, you should be spending $500 a month selectively boosting popular posts from various members of your team. Is that a good idea, a bad idea, or a how long is a piece of string idea?
Well, our system is very much about going with zero paid ads on LinkedIn, zero boosting. So we're all organic. We much rather it. We think that, especially in this sector, you need to be able to do so to be able to actually have the success, the relationship building, the value coming your way. We're naturally in a world of empathy. Trust is our greatest asset. So by resisting the temptation to boost, we see much better results coming in for the nonprofit sector. And we'll maintain to that as well.
Before we get to tactics, which I'm excited to, there's also this little thing that keeps popping up every now and then that says, write with AI, right inside of my LinkedIn post. Is that a good idea or the best idea ever in the world that you should just press that button and have AI poop out your posts?
No, yes, please resist ever allowing AI to write your comments, to help you write your posts. AI is there, as you very well know, and a lot of the listeners know. It's a great tool. It's absolutely necessary. We have to implement it into the business practices, into the organization, and so forth. But ultimately, it'll destroy your reputation. The moment that they'll see an M dash, a hyphen, and so forth, that's the moment.
I'm sorry. Every time I see an emoji-laden post, I'm like, could you try less? Emoji-laden posts. There's just no way humans are picking out all those emojis. It's so clearly AI. Yeah, it's an immediate, like, oh, I can glaze over this right now.
It's borderline offensive, I'd say. Where it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. It's one of those where I guess it's also the greatest opportunity where you read a post and you well know that it wasn't written by AI. You value that person. You value the person putting in the time, providing their thoughts, even if it's not the most perfectly grammatically written content and so forth. But the thought. So it's amplifying those unique voices and those that are not going through that route of just cutting corners, having AI write absolutely everything for them, are seeing, again, better results coming in. They're nurturing better relationships. They're having connection calls. So we absolutely ask everybody that we work with to refrain from using it.
All right. It's time for Confession Corner. I have a confession. So I got this idea speaking to one of my nephews in high school. He's in high school, and he realized that the teachers could figure out that, they're using ChatGPT. He's like, yeah, so what I do is I generate it, and then I put a whole bunch of spelling mistakes in it. And then I was like, oh my God, that is disturbingly brilliant. And so I often have spelling mistakes in my LinkedIn posts, and people are like, oh, you misspelled that. I was like, silly me. Look at me go. But here's the larger point, aside from whatever lesson you want to take from that, is actually I find that using AI is not bad. Using AI for quantity purposes, using AI for speed purposes leads you down. That's the road to the dark side, right? But using AI for deep research, synthesis of a complex concept that leads you to something that is actually remarkably well researched and then processed. Like, it is a cheat code.
Absolutely necessary. So I talk about all of this, and we're even building an AI venture ourselves for the nonprofit sector. I use AI daily. We have a GPT that's written for the sector that they can utilize to brainstorm ideas, to brainstorm concepts, because it is there to increment efficiency. So a lot of the times we find leaders that are having a tough time thinking about content. They want to be scheduling posts for the next month or so, and it's difficult to find variety within the content. What should they be discussing? Should they be celebrating an employee? Should they be celebrating an event, a fundraiser, and so forth? And that becomes a little overwhelming. AI is there to help you brainstorm throughout that entire process. What you just shouldn't do is copy, paste, and then submit it as if it was your own voice. So we're a huge proponent for AI. I think it's absolutely pivotal and fantastic for the sector. I think it's going to do a lot of good. However, you just need to be ethical about it. You have to be very prudent as to the way that you utilize it.
Yeah, for me, it's to oversimplify it. If you are using it for quantity, you're probably making a mistake. If you're using it for quality, you're probably on the right track. I want to play a game. I didn't prime you at all for this, but it's my podcast, so here we are. I want to play a tactic for tactic, LinkedIn. Tactics that you see working that the nonprofit listening right now could employ to raise funds, reputation, relationships, and we'll just trade back and forth because there are so many, and frankly, tactics fade, but they work while they work. And I'll put that asterisk on it. Don't confuse this for strategy.
Very well said. I agree with that completely.
Would you like to begin, sir?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So, one, posting more doesn't necessarily mean more visibility. It's about the value of your posts. So, there's a lot of concerns, or there's a lot of gurus saying you have to post daily, Monday to Sunday. That's not necessarily the case. You can post 3 times a week and have more impressions than if you were actually posting daily. We're seeing that just posting for posting's sake is diluting your message, diluting your values. Post methodically, strategically, and just always with the perspective of saying, how can I help? How can I be of value? And you're going to see that engagement increase as well.
Okay. I'm going to go with a tactic that has to do actually with the power of using LinkedIn search is so underrated, it hurts my brain. What does that mean? Inside of LinkedIn search, you can look up companies in a region of a certain size and then filter that and then find top people in the organization, say in the CSR department or in various departments that you want to reach out to for corporate relations or getting in touch with. You can find these people. And if you take the time, care, attention and message them, and you're going to say, oh, they get overwhelmed with messages, it works. It has worked for me again and again and again. And I think if you are on a nonprofit team and you're like, if only we could reach out to so-and-so, how do we get in touch? Like, stop it. Stop listening now. Go do this. The extra hack on that, I don't know if you use LinkedIn Recruiter, but I think it's worth paying for because even if you're not trying to recruit somebody, it lets you send messages in a very detailed way.
I'd say that same goes even for Sales Navigator. It's not very easily to find, but there is a 75% discount available for nonprofits, which only makes Sales Navigator $30 a month. And Microsoft doesn't demonstrate it easily. It's not easy to find, but it's there. You go to their website. I'll happily share the discount link along your way, George, but it's available. And it's only $30 a month to find or to use the search functionalities to their full potential on LinkedIn on such a powerful
I think I'm
platform.
paying like $100 a month for that tool.
So if you're a 501c3, you are available or eligible for that 75% discount.
Wow. Well, this podcast paid for itself. You're welcome, everyone, for making it to, minute 20. Darn. You can give another tip, but I think you just won the game, unfortunately.
Mic drop,
Of course you won the game. I was good one. More tips?
More tips. So yes, I'll lean into the featured section. So the featured section, you can add in, you don't need to have premium or be paying anything additional on LinkedIn. You go to your profile and you can add a featured section. Now we see that a lot of leaders will place in posts or links to their posts on the featured section, I highly recommend against it. Be strategic about your featured section. You can provide what we call lead magnets. Lead magnets could be either free training, impact reports, video demonstrating the impact that you've been able to provide to your community, and make that be tied into your CRM so you are ethically extracting data from LinkedIn for those that are interested. And it's not just living on LinkedIn's database. Let it go to your organization. You could place in the donation website or the landing page for your donations in the featured section. So make sure that your profile is fundable. It's not just looking at your profile and saying, well, this is nice to see this person logged on. Make sure that you make the call to action to where you want to take that individual, whether it is a donation or another facet of your organization.
Okay, I'm going to get this wrong, but there is a custom button and a custom link that you can add to your profile that chases around everywhere your post appears. I point mine to my newsletter because I am trying to capture people and get them off of that platform and into an owned data communication stream. Any finer points to put on that?
No, I'd say you're utilizing it very wisely. It's all about what the priorities are. So if you want to have that custom button, for example, be the newsletter, or if in 2 months' time you have an event and a fundraiser that's coming up and you want to have free marketing, change the custom button to that event for 2 months and then shift it back, whether it is the newsletter or any other, again, facet or item that you need to promote at the moment in the organization. So that's where the custom button can be. It doesn't have to be static. It doesn't have to be the same all year round unless you want it to be that way because it's just your most urgent strategy and you always have to be pushing it forward.
All right. I have another tip, and you can put a finer point on it. I think we think post first as the medium of communication in the platform. I have recently seen that some of my comments and some of our team's comments get far more impressions than the average post we have because essentially you're fishing where the fish are. And I'll be more specific on this. A lot of my recent activity has been about GoFundMe's decision to create a bunch of shadow donate pages, which they have since retracted. But as they were putting out statements, I went into their comments and said, this is what I think about this particular, position. And those types of comments did a lot. I think there's opportunity to find and look at trending conversations, hashtag conversations, and even posts put out by the leaders of foundations and their thought process where you just sort of show up in those areas.
So right now, I don't know if it was a few months ago, but to your point, George, you can see the number of impressions that a comment generates anyway. So to your point, that's absolutely the case. You can have very low number of followers or connections on your own profile, but if you follow those influencers, let's say thought leaders that have a large following and they're writing posts and there's a lot of engagement, try to be one of the first to write your comment. And again, if it's value driven, people are going to absolutely resonate with that. So we've seen the same thing. Some comments generate 30,000 impressions out of the right person's post, and it'll just generate more followers to your profile or more conversations and more DMs. As long as it's, again, a valuable comment. Don't say, love this, great take, great insight. Provide your own thought process and it'll generate good results.
All right. Since I already ceded the victory to you on the tip off there, any other advice, strategic points that you're finding, trends, things that you're like, yeah, this makes sense right now?
So I'd say it's not a trend, but a lot of people don't take advantage of it. So if you do have premium, you're allowed to write a note on every connection request. So when you do write a note, they generally will connect with you if it's a well-written note and you're not pitch flapping, which is terrible. But if you have a general authentic note, it could be an open connection rate of 70% or above. When you don't have a note and you just send a connection request, it hovers around 30% or below. So make sure to take advantage of that, even if you don't have premium, and utilize all the free notes that you obtain, because it's absolutely critical to do so.
Yeah, I think that's, good advice. I have been dabbling with video inside of LinkedIn and been utterly frustrated with the fact that anytime I feel like, even though they're promoting videos, they are not promoting videos. That said, the impressions are trash. The interactions are reduced. However, I do see a decent amount of views on the video. So like the smaller impressions, but I get quality views. I don't know what I think about it.
I've been going in a back and forth. I don't know if it was because like the mobile app of LinkedIn itself, but when you have a video and the text that you write for that post is embedded within, we've seen anyway on our end that the engagement is far less. People would just skim through it a little more quickly, or they're not going to tap into the video itself to actually read the post. Generally speaking, it's always great to add a video with a good written post that you're delivering value, insights, etc., as to why it's related with the video. But when it's embedded and it looks in that mobile app, that it's all within the video itself, and you can't see the post, that's where the results start to go down, or that's what we've had as a personal experience on our end.
So put another way, you have to do both, but you're getting more of a mobile lift essentially on those video views. But essentially that app usage is not TikTok level. You're not getting the swipes. I get probably easily 10x or more on shorts when I strategically post them on YouTube and those pieces.
I like to utilize video if it's very much, for example, personal branding, thought leadership, where it's yourself, it looks authentic. It isn't as perfectly edited, let's say, where it looks like an incredible production itself. It just feels authentic. It feels that you're there. Naturally, you want to have a good microphone so that people can actually listen to you well. But other than that, it is different against other social media platforms where there's this incredible editing and content creation and production levels. LinkedIn just doesn't operate that way. It still looks like Windows 95, which is not an insult whatsoever to the platform, but it allows you.
Great OS. Great OS.
It definitely allows you to have these conversations where it just shouldn't look like the most shiny object, let's say.
On a side note, here's a tip. When I have found that I've spoken negatively about Microsoft in my posts, I get a lot less reach, despite the fact that my comments, reactions, and reposts go through the roof. I have measured this in detail, and basically when I went after Slack a while back for like AI policy stuff, I got I'd say a 10x ratio on reach to the reactions plus comments plus reposts, like 10x, and against Microsoft and things like this is like 3x. I feel like I've been put on the Santa's naughty list. So I feel even that more like special when I can break through on a post. I'm sure it's all in my head, but I have numbers.
Yeah, I mean, the evidence is there to back it, right? So naturally, we're on their platform. We have to play by the rules and understand that they have the power of the algorithm, which is why we do talk about, for example, the featured sections. Whatever you can do to take that conversation off of LinkedIn, it's the best tactic itself, because ultimately you're depending on that algorithm. You're depending on their changes. We have to recognize that.
Yeah. And I want to bring it back to something more relevant to your point of the relationship over the reach. And I have had messages go well over, 100,000 impressions and interactions, but ultimately no conversations that were of relevant audience, because it was like it found its way to a weird audience that wasn't one that it wasn't the nonprofit sector, wasn't like B2B nonprofit sector. My more recent ones that are about topics that affect the sector, that deal with issues that are much closer to home, have done far better in terms of just the relevance to the conversation. I am concerned that we end up with playing the impression game for the sake of impressions and using that as a metric of success versus what you said. And you have successfully raised over $1 million through LinkedIn. Can you explain the journey of like why these stupid posts on this silly little platform owned by Microsoft helps me serve more people tomorrow, raise more money to help our mission? Like, get that bridge there for me.
Well, so to your point, George, for example, I admit I'm guilty. I was going through that process of treating it like a TikTok. On Instagram, let me put the coolest AI looking video, a bird protecting other birds, for example. And it was a post that generated 600,000 impressions. Very first time when I was getting much, let's say, active on LinkedIn. This was about a year ago. And it was the first major viral post. I got excited. I said, I made it. This is incredible, and so forth. Didn't generate a single relevant conversation. The dopamine completely crashed like 3 days after, where I didn't see the results. And so I realized that I was going about it wrong. I was going for the virality, the vanity metrics, and so forth, until what you very well mentioned, I started writing posts that were directly correlated to my audience, to those that I wanted to help. And as soon as I did, and I'm providing free resources, and I'm just wanting to provide any support that I can, then the impressions, they never reach 600,000, but they reach 100,000, 200,000. And there are all these conversations that we're having with my ideal audience. So that's where I started to see, again, the power of LinkedIn, where you stop focusing on the numerical growth, focus on the relationship building of those that are in your space. And if you do go at it with that mindset, I just want to help. I am here to provide value. We can all be mentored and we can all be a mentor. If you have that mindset, I definitely see a lot of growth potential. It did unlock for myself the investments that I was looking for at the time to reach $1 million because I was getting in front of the right conversations. There's also a lot of silent lurkers. Just because they don't react to your post, they don't comment on your post, doesn't mean that they're not reading it. And I had that with a lot of investors. They kept reading my post. I shifted away from that TikTok, Instagram mentality. And all of a sudden, the post became valuable. And they started to reach out, having a conversation with me and referring to previous posts that I thought nobody engaged with whatsoever. Well, a key listener was there and a decision maker. So that's the beauty. You just need to keep showing up with value.
Yeah, it's not everyone, it's the right one. Do you have an example? Just, I'm going to push you on tangible. Like, this is a nonprofit. They on Tuesday posted this thing about this other thing, and then the rest of the story.
So we worked alongside a grassroots organization, a wonderful founder. Her name is Trisha Montgomery. She's very much focused on preventive care for animals so that they can actually reduce cancer and all these terrible diseases. And she was struggling with LinkedIn herself. We started to work alongside together, but after 3 weeks, she was actually able to raise $30,000. Now, beyond just the donation itself, is to your point again about the comments. She started to realize the power of commenting, about being authentic, about being value driven within the comments itself. And she reached, in her space, a major influencer that has an app of over 7 million subscribers that are pet owners, pet lovers, veterinarians, and so forth. And then she got highlighted or showcased as like the premier nonprofit to support in an app that are in front of 7 million of her ideal audience. And it all became possible because she commented on the right influencers in her space with that value-driven approach. So a shift in mentality made a significant difference to her organization and the way that she's growing it now.
Yeah, and it's a perfect combo of the comment is very, very important. And I find that also just putting a post out and ignoring all of the comments that happen is a bad idea. Like, it's kind of like people like pick up the phone to call you, and if you're not picking up on the other side. So for those that have, management of your profile, or if you're doing it, I'd say equal time, certainly for combing through past mentions and posts and staying on top of that is equally weighted, I'd say, in time on task.
It's you have to treat LinkedIn, and it sounds simple, let's say, but it's a live networking event. I do find a lot of the times, and I receive messages frequently from nonprofit organizations that I understand the desperation. I understand that they're tempted to just ask for that donation, but you have to resist that temptation as much as possible. You cannot send the first message asking for a donation or showcasing a large paragraph of the event that you're going to be having without building the relationship first. And it's difficult, but as soon as you resist that temptation and you treat LinkedIn, as we're discussing, a live networking event, you never go to a networking event and say, hello, my name is Mario. By the way, I sell X. You're going to be that guy who's like in the awkward corner that nobody wants to talk to. So instead, you just build a relationship. Whenever I'm at a networking event, you're probably going to say, hey, this is a wonderful event. Are you around this area? Have you tried this coffee? Have a normal conversation. It's a professional platform. But people ultimately want to get to know you first, and then you're going to be able to nurture that relationship to a collaborative mindset, because ultimately these are business owners that you want to have a discussion with and say, hey, we can provide a lot of value your way by X, Y, and Z. But make sure you nurture that relationship.
Yeah, and to that point, I think the metaphor that you brought up here with you're at a networking event. Imagine you are at that networking event. Someone comes over to you, you've got your second and a half coffee in you, and they're like, here is 2 minutes about me and everything going on about me and what I think about this and what I think about this. Like, you are like immediately turned off. You're immediately going to be like, how do I not do what I'm doing right now, which is talking or getting talked to by you? I have found that when I leave room for people to interject what they think, and so like recently I've been going with this, help me understand this issue. Honestly, I understand it pretty darn well, but maybe I am genuinely missing something. Invites curiosity, invites conversation, which helps, honestly, with the algorithm, helps with reach, and then lets me play in the comments. So I'd say, as a blind sort of focus, like making the we're at a conference practical would be one of the approaches that comes from that.
It's very much to what you said, George. Be less interesting and be more interested. If you are asking those questions, if you have that curiosity, you're making the relevant questions as well for those individuals, then the conversation starts to grow exponentially from there. So I agree completely with what you said. And it's one of those where we have to resist that temptation of just talking about ourselves and be a lot more interested in others.
The just nuance of posting also, because I feel like it's worthy of putting it out there. The having an image for the sake of an image is a bad image. I've actually been seeing more and more that there must be some sort of time, attention, focus on the post also playing in, that I have been adding more complexity to my images with circles or look at this or like, snapshots of data rather than linking out, because LinkedIn hates it, ironically, if you link to anything but their stuff. So taking that screenshot, following up in the comment, have you seen similar things? Is that like, something worth adding to your approach?
So definitely don't add the links within the post. If you will add a link to any external source, whether it's a news article, event, and so forth, say link will be referred in the comments, because or else your post is going to just get killed in terms of the impressions. So that we have definitely seen. Regarding, let's say, images, carousels, and so forth, that's where I'm always very much data centric. You have to realize, one, that you're not building that audience, you're building that community. And if you're building that community of raving fans, of followers that love who you are, what you're all about, you're going to start realizing that they kind of place a brand upon you. So I realized that a lot of my listeners love to see my family photos. And I became that's a big value of mine. I'm very family centric, but I provide a lot of my family photos, and they generally perform better than if I was just placing in a carousel, let's say. So it's not just a one system for all that just benefits and everybody has to do the same thing. Listen to your audience, listen to that community, and you're going to be surprised what you find anyway in terms of their preferences. Some might be carousels, some might be data infographics, some might be videos. But you have to tune into that data and realize what performs best for your own content.
Yeah, I've always been careful. I selectively and rarely will put family pictures in there, and if I ever do, one, I always check with my partner, and two, never a face. So I put up a picture of like I was like super excited, a metaphor around like teaching my little girl to ride a bike. But you'll note there's a helmet on and it's from the back, and she's like riding from the back. So I'll do it, but I get nervous when those two worlds come too closely. And so it's very few and far between. And when done, I would say, find your own line and talk to your team. But I'm always careful with that. I have a question for you, which is just totally self-serving. I have found that I'm becoming labeled, for better or worse, as a bit of like a social good arsonist, where the most of my engagement, it's not the only thing I put, but most of my more successful engagements comes from calling out bad behavior, the ranting kind of stuff, going after, the Microsofts, the GoFundMes, the Slacks, the types of things that I think harm the sector, which part of my brain is like, it's working, it's getting attention. Part of me is like, am I just putting negative energy into the world? So I'm inevitably sort of carving that out as in a direction. I'm not a question, just statement.
Well, I think the intentions are all that matter, right? And you have the best of intentions doing so. I think it's absolutely critical to inform the platform, the users of these events, whether it is Microsoft, Slack, or GoFundMe recently. But we need to be able to put that out there. I don't think you're not doing it to be able to actually get the engagements and make sure that the algorithm sees the controversies and people going on back and forth. I think it merits discussion, and we have to be able to have those conversations. So I'm very much I'm very much favoring that type of content, and those that are doing it in such a respectful fashion, because we need to have the conversations of multiple perspectives and not be afraid to have a back and forth in the ping pong of a conversation with others who might be in agreement or might not be in agreement.
I will say, if it had just been like something that we had found that was like very, very alarming, like we had clients being affected by this, we're like, this is beyond just our client pool. And I don't know how just sending out a newsletter wouldn't have done it. It's kind of like a nod to the power of the platform, where if what you have to say and the way you say it resonates, does take off, and you can affect not just conversations, but actual change. I do note, though, that in this recent event, I always am careful when I find myself in a mob to remind myself that mobs don't build bridges. They don't build buildings. Mobs burn things down. And that is the other side of the coin that I carry, I think, sometimes in this tactic and in this approach.
No, it's true. And again, voices do matter, and you are evoking emotions that could be very strongly driven as well. So we have to be prudent about that as well as we're engaging on the platform. But ultimately, we have to be transparent. We have to be able to have these discussions. So again, it's just managing it with a lot of care, with a lot of empathy. But I was going over your post, and I saw the comments that were being written. Some were in agreement, some not. But that discussion is ultimately what fuels the growth for each and every one of us. And it's both for the organizations, but it merits that discussion. And I've had posts where I've been discussing about a certain topic or a certain strategy, and there's been some pushback. And sometimes I agree with it completely. I'm like, well, you made me think about it twice. Fantastic. We don't have to be afraid of seeming like we're perfect on LinkedIn. What you want is just to have those conversations and ultimately learn, guide each other, and get better as well as a collective.
Yeah, I think that, we're going to move into our rapid fire questions, but I'd say of all of the social media platforms that I engage on, far and away, LinkedIn is the place where someone that I'm disagreeing with is more likely to change their mind, or vice versa, change my mind, at least move me some degree. And I think there is a whole lot that you could unpack in any cause, in any narrative, and in any tactic, given that is the state of play on that social media platform.
I think it's a beauty of the platform where I've personally not encountered trolls.
Well, I've been and have encountered trolls. I will come about to the other side of that argument. But capita percentage, yes.
Thank you. So it's exactly that. Every once in a while, I'll encounter one, but I have to say that it's the outlier in my case. I just don't see it much. There's a lot of discussion and so forth, but it's very positive conversations and contributions.
I'm just going to start trolling you so hard. It's going to be great. People are going to be like, why is this guy so mean? All right, Mario, we have rapid fire questions. Please keep your responses shortish. And here we go. What is one tech tool or website that you have started using in the last year?
Go High Level. We switched to that CRM. It's been fantastic, extremely useful for everything that we've been building out. So not for everybody like any CRM, but it's been very useful for ourselves.
Go High Level, you said?
Go High Level. I just can't.
Free advertising. There you go, team. Don't say it don't happen. What tech issues are you currently battling with?
Funnily enough, data integration with LinkedIn is still very much manual, that you have to be managing those conversations, opportunities, taking them to the CRMs. And you have to be very careful of any integrations that you do have with the platform, because it could provide a potential restriction, blocked, and so forth. So I'd say be very prudent of those that say we integrate with LinkedIn, et cetera. I haven't wanted to do so myself. So it's very manual, but again, it's a big pain in that regard.
What is coming in the next year that has you the most excited?
One, naturally, what we're building out with LinkedIn. Two, our AI venture called Divly. That's going to be coming out next year. Take a look at it when you can, but it's AI for the nonprofit sector built within the sector. So we're excited about it.
Just don't generate a whole bunch of donation pages without permission, and I'm good.
I won't have you as a troll on my on my profile.
Talk about a mistake. Talk about a mistake you made earlier in your career that shapes the way you do things now.
I was definitely chasing money when I got out of college, and having the first exit felt meaningless. So chase meaning, chase significance, and the money will flow, or the success will flow, let's say. But I'd say anybody graduating or getting out of college and so forth, just be very careful of that.
Do you believe that nonprofits can successfully go out of business?
Absolutely. That's the idea. If they can eradicate a certain problem, if the cause itself is not necessary anymore, I think that's the best level of success, is that they actually reach that point. So yes, absolutely.
If I gave you the hot tub time machine back to the beginning of your work, what advice would you give yourself?
Kind of goes back to that other point. I'd say just chase meaning, chase significance for yourself. Like, whether it's if that's impact work, fantastic, but something that fuels you, because I went through burnout, and we see a lot of surface level burnout talk. It's not about the workload. It's just about the lack of significance. And that was absolutely detrimental for myself very much in the early years. So be careful of that, and make sure that whatever you are building is something that you're passionate about.
What is something you think you should stop doing?
We need to sometimes stop over customizing. Sometimes we do need that one system fits all, naturally, with our adjustments and so forth, but we can't scale without those systems. And so over customization can sometimes lead to a difficult or very arduous path.
What advice did your parents give you that you either followed or didn't follow?
I did not follow. It's amazing how much it comes back to me, but I did not follow the make sure that you're just building out with passion or something that actually matters to you. I did not listen to it. And as soon as I got out of college, it was very much like, I'm going to jump into an industry I did not care about and build a business there. And then I paid the price, let's say, very dearly 2 years later.
All right. How do people find you? How do people help you?
Well, you can find me surprisingly on LinkedIn. It's just incredibly enough. I'll be there quite a lot of the times. Write to me via the comments, the DMs. I'm very happy to reach out. If not, go to our website, impactcircle.network, and you'll find my contact information on the website as well.
Impactcircle.network. Mario Hernandez on LinkedIn and everywhere else. Thank you so much for the work you're doing, and I know where to find you.
George, I'm a huge fan. Thank you so much for having me. I really did enjoy our talks, and I'm just a little nervous now about seeing you pop up in my post as a troll, but hopefully that won't happen. And thanks again, man. I do appreciate it.